2.
Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on July 10th, August 10th, 2024 at approximately 4:30 p.m. PST. Now, I've returned to this world for one primary purpose, and that is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally use in my day-to-day life. And the philosophies of life I talk about are the same philosophies I guide virtually every movement I make with. Now, with this in mind, I know these tools will work for you because they continue to work for me and have literally worked for thousands of other people with varying degrees of success, depending on their own personal efforts. Now, today on Positive Perceptions, we are looking at the emotional healing and healing the world. Okay, how does that go about happening? But before we go into that, okay, I'm just going to look here. We have Woo Rider is in with the gold. How you doing, Woo? Glad you could join us. The reality is that I know things are getting hectic out there. And, it's my hope that anybody coming into this stream leaves feeling a little bit better than what they did when they got here. LA Moon is in the house. This is one of our moderators, and frankly, pretty much one of the few people that literally watches out for my health and has no qualms about stepping in the middle of the stream, as evidenced by a couple of weeks ago, to point out when my health is going into a questionable setup. And to that end, LA, thank you very much. I cannot believe it. Going back to childhood, from now, we are looking, where are we? We are on Saturday, so we are looking at 3 sleeps, and I'm heading for the Southlands. Okay. Renee, you are in with the silver. How you doing? Glad you could join us. Hopefully things are going well on your end. And then we have Rob White. How you doing, Robert? Hopefully you are healing well and things are starting to move forward a little faster. I know things are interesting, are intriguing and complicated on occasion. And we scroll down and we have Joe Stewart, Robert White is in with the bronze. And then we have Joe Stewart is in with honorable mention. How's it going there, Joe? Glad you could drop in. Undoubtedly, you got stuff going on in the background there in the backyard there. You usually do. At least from what I've seen. Now, here's the thing. Where it comes to healing this entire world, this is not done by one person going, hey, we should be nice to each other. 2,000 years ago, that was tried. One person came in. Okay, if you believe in anything that was written about that time, one person came in and said, essentially, be nice to each other. Okay, now, depending on reports, you had, 11 or 12 people that stepped up to the plate and helped. Well, we got 2,000 years out of the deal. In this chat room alone, okay, we have over 600 people that have the opportunity to spread this word. That means if you look at the same ratios, you're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood, of 100,000 years that we can have peace if we start working together. Oh, and Robert, the new chair arrived. Very happy for you. Oh, there you go. Whoops, I misread that. I read what you wrote there, Robert. And what you wrote was got some tools for jewelry making since the stones, once the stones show up. Now, what I misread was, I literally read it as got some tools for jewelry making. Once the stoners show up, I can get busy again. Like I said, I'm not always able to read well. But it does paint an interesting picture. But I do wish you the best of luck with that there, Robert. Not that luck is actually something you have to worry about there. That's just effort. Now, when we take a look at this world, to heal the emotional state of the world, it literally boils down to a very simple issue. We have to start treating each other as we desire to be treated. Now, I was on Facebook today, and I just mentioned this to Storm just a moment ago. I came across a post on Facebook. Okay, that literally it was a post on my stream on my Facebook page, and it says, as God is my witness, I am going to convert everyone in this room to Christianity. So just to start things off on the right note, I went and responded to it. I says, to be clear, I am Christian. Okay, in as much as I do believe in God, I do believe in Christ. Okay, probably more so than most people. But I said, it's my hope that while you're in the process of this conversion, that you're also working towards the reunification of the currently fragmented Christian faith. Now, I have not gotten a response from anybody on that yet, and that's okay. It boils down to this. Every one of the religions I've seen out there are supposed to be teaching the same idea, even by their own doctrines. Okay, they're supposed to be working towards getting people to get along, to help each other, and yet that is where 80% of the wars apparently are getting started. Okay, with this in mind, it's time to start shifting that. Okay, but you start with yourself. That's where it all starts. And yeah, she's likely going to be drinking all of my coffee. Yeah, it's a terrible thing. Yeah, no doubt. Joe goes, I'm okay. The cemetery is bound to act up sooner or later tonight. Okay. The thing is this. I look at everybody I meet in the same light. Okay. Everyone is a valuable individual. Every one of you has the ability to alter the path your own life is on. And I will tell you, by altering the negative things around you, by changing your focus to the positive things that are happening, that is how we're going to heal this world. But you've got to start accepting people as they are, contrary to some people's belief. If what they're doing is socially unacceptable, as in breaks karmic law. Karmic law. Be true to yourself first. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Energy out, energy in. Okay. If you follow those three laws, then we can actually eliminate a lot of the tension that is in existence. Now, I was asked yesterday, was there ever a time when mankind actually had peace? And it did exist. 50,000 years ago, we had global peace, no war. In other words, no war, no jealousy, and no greed. Not to mention no starvation. So, is this doable? The answer is yes. LA goes, I'd like to see people start focusing on religion and stop focusing on God. Well, stop focusing on religion and start focusing on God, which is absolutely the case. Now, let's give you a basic rundown. Oh, there we are. You know, that being the case, let's understand something. When if you follow the belief that God is real, okay, then what you're looking at is God created everything. Now, I'm going to throw a challenge out there for every one of you that believe in God. Okay, do you believe? Okay, do you believe that God created everything? If the answer to that is yes, then we ask the other question, and this is the one that usually causes a problem. Do you believe that God created evil? Okay, that's the question you have to ask yourself. But here's the kicker to it from what I've seen. If God created everything, God had to create evil, because if he hadn't, you wouldn't know what good was. You wouldn't have a comparative. But God gave you freedom of choice and free will. What he didn't give you was freedom from consequence. Now, when I deal with people out there, and when I deal with anyone out there, I treat people exactly the same way I desire to be treated. And yes, that does mean when people say something that I find complicated, my mouth tends to go into gear. And this is why I say, don't take my word for things. Do your own research. Okay, the fact of the matter is that I'm not perfect. And like everybody, okay, everybody filters their experience, their view through whatever they've experienced. So when you take a look around your immediate living area, you eliminate the things that you're not content with. And by doing that, you will put forth a new energy that helps you accept other people as they are. This does not mean that you don't say a word. If you see somebody abusing another person, absolutely they're entitled to their perspective. This doesn't mean to stand by and let it happen. Okay, so it's the same with me. If I'm doing something that is offensive to somebody, absolutely tell me. Okay, absolutely do. Just be aware that the odds are I've got a reason for it. And there was an old saying I learned a long time ago. Ken, how you doing? Glad you could join us. I trust business is going well. Like I've said to you and said to many people over the years, where it comes to business, don't make the mistake of targeting the real big ticket holders, the real big companies. Go after the smaller ones, because the smaller ones, they may not have as much money, but I will tell you, there's more of them than there are the big ones. Just my personal insight, given over 35 years of business consulting. Now, the neat little part of this, when we take a look at this world, okay, you've got a choice. You were not given freedom from consequence. That said, it's absolutely imperative that when you're dealing with somebody, if you see somebody abusing another person, animal, plant, whatever it is, absolutely open the door. Okay, open your mouth. Tell people this is not acceptable. Now, I saw a post on Facebook a little while ago that said, and the person, and I'm paraphrasing, but this group said, if you are a light worker, you should not tell other people they're wrong. Okay, you should honor their perspective, their view, and leave them alone. Well, this is a great idea, but let's take that to extremes, shall we? Okay, if you're a light worker and you see somebody like one of the major, like, let's go all the way back to World War II, shall we? If you're a light worker, would it have been the right thing to button your mouth and not say anything about the way that Hitler was guiding his people? Okay, would that have been the work of a light worker? Or would that be a case of, I don't want to get involved, and since they're not shooting at me, it's okay? This is the reality. Now, I've never claimed to be a light worker. I simply claimed that I'm here as a spiritual guide. Okay, and to tell you that what I talk about is what I am personally in the process of doing. Okay, so it's not a question of, do what I tell you, I'm going to go do something else. Okay, it's a question of, I'm telling you, this is what I'm doing. If you desire to follow me, absolutely do so. The thing we have to remember is I'm not the best of the best in my eyes. Now, there are some out there that have told me otherwise. Of course, we also have to realize I've been called the devil incarnate, amongst other things that are not quite so politely put. So, if you're not happy, I will tell you, and actually I'll ask you this. If you see somebody that's really unhappy, really miserable, and grouchy to everybody, are you more inclined to hang around that type of person, or are you more inclined to hang around the person that is a little more upbeat, full of, talks about hope, talks about freedom, talks about prosperity? Okay, which one gets your attention faster? Ken, the answer, well, Ken is asking, could someone have stopped Hitler? Could they? Certainly, but you got to remember, you've got to put that whole thing, you got to put that whole thing in perspective. Now, I was not dealing with Hitler head on. I never met the man personally. Okay, but I was, and that's primarily because I was involved in World War I and World War II, come to think of it. I wasn't the type of person you wanted to know then. But I will tell you this. There were a lot of things that were overlooked. Doesn't matter at this point. Okay. And I'm not getting into the whole thing of was it real, was it not. You guys can sort that out. Okay. I will tell you this, though. Had people seen the reality behind it and been in the right position, then yes. Could he have been stopped? Certainly. And there's all sorts of ways, even once it got out of hand, it could have been stopped. I'm not getting into that because I'll get myself into trouble. Okay, but let me ask you this. If you've got a local bully, somebody that you know is being a bully, and I mean, even if you see somebody in public berating their kids in an aggressive fashion, can you, or more to the point, will you open your mouth and tell them this is not good behavior? Or are you just going to turn a blind eye and a deaf ear and let them carry on because it's their right? I have rights too. Sure you do. But what about the rights of the people that are not in a position to help themselves? Now, we already know the religions across the board and government agencies and big corporations almost unilaterally across the board that claim to be striving to help people aren't doing an effective job. Don't take my word for it. Look into it yourself. Now, I looked into a lot of various charities that claimed they were trying to help people. And what I found, unfortunately, my research showed that the best of the charities took 30% of what they were collecting from people to help whatever group they were trying to help. 30% at the best went to the organization, to the actual people. The other 70%, in other words, 70 cents on the dollar, local currency, relying on local currency, went to the charity. Now, I don't know about you, but this is just blanket wrong in my eyes. If you look at what the internet says, okay, the Christian religion has 45,000 denominations and controls about 55% of the world cash. If this is the case, then why do we have so many people living on the street and so many people that are poor? These are just questions I ask. Joe, in answer to the question, Joe's asking, weren't you supposed to be on SOR with Dave on Friday? I was, but I didn't find out until literally 15 minutes before the show. Dave revamped his entire system that night. So the show ended up getting canceled. First time in 10 years it's been canceled because of that. We missed it. I think we missed it in January of 2019 when I had a stroke. I don't know how that interrupted the show, but what the heck. As far as I know, though, Joe, I will be back on air with Dave on the first Friday of September. I'll be back in town by then, so that works. But when we take a look at the healing of this world, the organizations, the governments, the corporations that are claiming to be there to help the people in problem. Okay. If these people, and it's up to you guys, ultimately it's up to them. It's up to you guys to start demanding of the people you're following, okay, that they start dealing with these things. Joseph, how you doing? Glad you could join us. The reality of it is this. Okay, if people are claiming to follow a certain path, absolutely call them on it if they're not. Okay, now I am by no means the smartest person on the planet. Quite frankly, I figure I'm dumber than a bag of hammers on occasion. But I will tell you, okay, do I miss a lot of do I have all the bits and pieces, all the different dates organized? Not a prayer. Okay, but as it turns out, I had somebody who was talking to me the other day. Now, I've already mentioned I am what they call temporally challenged, meaning like I've got something called temporal dissociative disorder, meaning I can't track time. In addition to this, though, I just recently found out that I also suffer from something called time blindness, meaning if you're asking me something about when something happened, good luck with that. I'll be honest as honest as I can, but I'm pretty much hooked. But I will tell you this. The thing we all have to look at is take a look in the mirror. Number one, are you acknowledging your own shortfalls? Okay, where you've had a falling out with somebody, have you acknowledged your culpability in it? Now, I had a fallout with somebody a long time ago. The trick to forgiving them is not forgetting. It is forgiving them so you don't hold against them what they did wrong. But don't be dumb enough to let that continue on. Put your boundaries in place. Okay, I remember asking a priest one day. Okay, he was walking down the sidewalk, and he had a white collar on, which pretty much says you're looking at a priest. So I stopped. I asked him. I said, I got a question for you. He goes, yes, my son. How can I help you? So I just want to know when you're going to start doing God's work. And he goes, well, I'm a priest of such and such a church. I said, great. I kind of figured that was the case because the wardrobe isn't really that fetching. Right? I said, but you didn't answer the question. Right? He says, well, what do you mean? I said, I spend a lot of time talking to kids that are troubled, kids and adults alike. Right? I've never seen one of you guys come down and talk to them. He goes, well, we encourage them to come to church. I says, really? You won't let the gays in if they don't believe in exactly the same structure of your religion as you do. You won't let them through the door. In some cases, if you don't literally become a member of that parish before they know what's going on, you won't let them through the door. You barely let them on the property. How does this work as healing, as encouraging them to join? Okay, it's very much a question of take a look at what you're not happy with. Be vocal in a polite fashion. And I will put it this way, never mind diplomatically correct. Okay, be vocal in a socially acceptable, non-criminal method and let people know this is not acceptable behavior. Period. Okay, don't sit quietly and hope somebody else says something. You desire this world to heal. It is time to open your mouth. Well, I don't want to upset anybody. This is fantastic. Don't upset anybody and watch what happens. Notice the state of the world. This is because people have been biting their lips, biting their tongues, and going, well, I don't want to create a problem. So I'm just going to let the problem get even bigger. Oh, wait a minute. They don't say that part. Okay. It's like a pressure cooker. If you do not let the pressure off, if you don't let people know there's a problem, they may well be blind to it. They may well not be seeing it to start with. And I will tell you, every one of you that considers asking a question of me, every one of you know this. Whatever the question is, the odds are somebody else in the listening chat room or that listens to this later, somebody's got the same question you do. And this is why I say in this stream, in Positive Perceptions here, absolutely, if you've got a question in any field, put it in all caps. This is not called streaming. This is called just making it visible so I can find it. Okay, I used to worry a lot about the number of people that were actually subscribed to my channel. Came to the conclusion that's not the real important factor. It really isn't. The question is, are people taking this message out to the people around them that you have contact with and helping them see that the current path we are all following? And whether now, do you understand? You may not be directly contributing to the problem. But let me ask you, in the case of a river, Rachel, how you doing? Glad you could join us. In the case of a river, all water flows down the same stream. Does this mean every drop is trying to go the same direction? Or when you watch a school of fish, does every fish really desire to go the same direction? Or are they just following the crowd? Now, here's the kicker. A friend of mine one day coined a beautiful phrase. He goes, dead fish don't swim upstream. Meaning, it may be a lot of work to cut across the current and get up on the shore. It may take a lot of effort, but it's also something that can happen in a very positive fashion if you put the effort into it. Now, do I get affected by people? Absolutely. This is why I hide from people. Unfortunately, I can still feel what's going on anyway. Okay. And one of the things, Storm, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Oh, fantastic, Rachel. I do hope especially with that, thank you so much for dropping in. Family is extremely important. Okay. And you guys have seen me do it where something's going on. I get a call from one of my boys. And I'll just, right now, I got to go deal with this. I'm going. Okay. You know, and because family is the critical factor. But here's the thing. I'm not talking about necessarily bloodline family. Now, there's a saying that goes, blood is thicker than water. It's absolutely correct. And I will tell you, lead is even thicker than blood. You know, and I'm talking liquid lead. So, here's the kicker. You desire your world to work, to change. You desire to bring peace to this world. Get the lead out of your backside, get off the couch, and start making changes. You have to start healing yourself in order to let the rest of the world heal. As my dad used to put it. Okay, you take care of the pennies, the dollars will take care of themselves. You take care of you without harming others. Okay, without intentionally, with malice and forethought, harming others. Okay, and this will help the world itself heal. This is something we have to work at. Yeah. Joe goes, could I have ADHD of the upstairs window at night? I look out at it a lot. Technically, the answer is yes, you could. Okay. But in all fairness, Joe, usually from my understanding, ADHD does not have a specific trigger. Now, what you're more likely to have, in my experience, would be OCD, focusing on the outside, on the back window. Okay, but do understand, I am not any sort of a medical diagnostician, psychologist, you call that. Okay, I'm not registered in any sort of medical profession. You know, and by the way, just to be clear, in my opinion, whether you've got OCD, ADHD, whatever list you want, okay, take any anachronism, okay, that you'd like. Whatever you've got, it makes you unique and still a very valuable member of this community and of any community you happen to be a part of. Okay, but when we're looking at the world at large, if Nathan, how you doing? Glad you could join us. And, I take it by the feel of it, things are a little on the hectic side there. And remember, guys, remember, Nathan is on tonight at 9 p.m. Pacific. Okay. So do drop in he's on for the panel tonight. 7 p.m. Pacific for his show. Okay. Absolutely. Drop in, give him a listen. If you like what he has to say, come right out and tell him. Uh-oh. Are we going to the place with really, really hot tubs and a deep muscle massage that is absolutely to die for? The nice little part about this is it's people like Nathan's show here that I do encourage people to drop in on. Okay. Yeah. Well, it was worth a shot. In order to put this world back on track, we've got to stop spreading the negativity. And I mean literally. You take a look at the mainstream media where they go, so-and-so shot so-and-so, so-and-so robbed so-and-so, such and such a country went to war again. Okay. All of these things, they are negative, they are happening. Okay. But every time you listen to one thing negative, listen to, read, watch, doesn't matter, any combination of input that you take on a negative standpoint, that you take in of a negative standpoint, come right out and focus twice as much time on positive interactions. Now, on this stream, I'm just not getting into all the bad things that are going on. Think about it. If we look at it, number one, yes, a lot of people are getting killed. Absolutely, but think of it. If there were so many people dying and that was the dominant issue, you may have something there. But we have a population rise. This means, by clinical definition, more people are being born than dying. Okay, this is what we have to focus on. Now, I'm taking a look, the reality of it is, okay, Joseph asks, you asked for a question in any field. One that I don't understand in physics is that, well, let's not try that. And I don't understand in physics is part of the three bodies concept. If an astronomer discovers a comet which has a 0.3% increase in velocity, okay, he's going to get the rest of it here. Hopefully that makes you feel better there, Joe. Regarding the OCD. Now, something before I go any further down the road of what Joseph is asking, and absolutely, Joseph, finish the question off, I'll catch it as I can. One thing to understand, guys, I was diagnosed mentally retarded when I was a child. I subsequently got dropped into a course in theoretical genetics, optics, and end up graduating on the honor roll. Okay, here's the thing, Joseph, you gotta look at the bigger picture. Okay, he goes, a comet which has a 0.3% increase in velocity. How is it about terrestrial of Earth? How is it moving away, moving way towards? I do believe we have a typo here. But here's the thing. People talk about, now, here's what we've got. People talk about the Earth being round. Now, I covered this the other day. First of all, we take a look at this. From Earth, if you're looking at a comet going away, you're going to see a round comet. If you're looking at it approaching you, you're going to see a round comet. But if you're watching it go sideways, it's no longer round. The fact of the matter is that there is not just one little direction people travel. Okay, in space, we are talking about 360 degrees in a spherical direction. It can go any number of directions. And the reality of it is, when you look now, here's the biggest problem I have. The three body concept, I don't know, but I'm going to throw a real wrench in people's thought processes. I cannot prove this, but I'm going to throw this out there for you anyway. People have long been looking at Earth, at Sol, our sun, as a single star system. Now I'm going to throw a wrench at you, and in about 1,000, maybe 2,000 years, you guys will figure it out. I'm going to tell you right now, I am a firm believer that Earth is not a single star system. It is and get this, it's not binary, it is a trinary star system. And yes, I know what that sounds like. Okay. The biggest thing we have to look at here is physics as humans understand it is incomplete. That is the easiest way to point it. Now, I don't know specifically the 3-point system, but I will tell you that's your biggest problem. Okay, And there we have Joseph just corroborating what I just mentioned. But I will tell you this, understanding all of the cosmos is not going to do much of anything towards healing this planet unless we accept that somebody's IQ or somebody's intellect makes them better. If it's a higher intellect, it makes them better than the next person. Okay, it really doesn't. Some of the best discoveries in existence have come by accident. Okay, not by educated observation, just by, I wonder what this button does. Okay, I wonder what would happen. Like, let's face it, the discovery of electricity, my understanding is, and I probably got some of the information wrong here, and that's okay. Okay, but my understanding is that Ben Franklin, of all the bizarre ideas, hung a metal key on a kite and stuck it up in the air. Why? I don't know. The fact he survived the experiment is a testament to his stubborn streak. But when we start looking at people, now, like I said, I am not the brightest. Sometimes I think I'm one of the dumbest people on the planet. But the one thing I learned is no matter who I'm talking to, listen to what they have to say. But if they say something that is a problem, do not hesitate to point out it's a problem. Point in fact, I was in a Tim Hortons, which is kind of like the Robin's Donuts down in the States. I don't know about the rest of the countries. Okay, I'm standing in lineup and understanding that the hot chocolate machine was around the corner of the counter. Okay, the person in front of me asked the girl, and she was being polite about it. She goes, I'd like a hot chocolate, please. So the cashier says, yeah, no problem. Takes the money. She goes, I'm just going to step around the corner here and grab your hot chocolate. That was the entirety of the comment. The woman that just ordered the hot chocolate goes around, turns around, looks at her and goes, what? You're going around the corner so you can spit in my hot chocolate? Now, me being the subtle individual I am, I'm standing right behind her and I went, ma'am, I says, around here they don't do that. But in your case, I'm certain we can work out an exception. Not the politest thing to say. The fact of the matter is, as a light worker, does it make sense to let that woman have the right to abuse the cashier to that level? Okay, think how you would feel if somebody talked to you that way. This is what we're talking about. In order to heal the world, you've got to actually start standing up for the little people on it. Okay, absolutely you have to. Why? Well, technically you don't have to. You can leave it the way it is. Here's the kicker. Leave the world doing what it's doing. Leave the religions and the temples and the spiritual guides that are telling you to be prejudiced, to treat people like garbage. Let them continue doing that without questioning it. And I will warn you, you're going to have the same outcome as Rome had. The society as you know it is going to collapse. No, I am not a doomsayer. I'm not telling you the world's going to end the end of this week. I will tell you, on the other hand, sort of tongue-in-cheek, that if you've got any money you don't have a requirement that you figure is too much, absolutely send it to me. I will more than happily put it to use. Okay. I remember years ago there was a television evangelist. I kid you not. He stands there in front of the TV and he goes, if I don't have $8 million by Friday evening, God's going to call me home. Now, I got no problem with somebody doing that. I do question the reason that so many people pitched in and handed him money. My first question has always been, why does God care how much money you've got? First and foremost. Second point, The second thing I looked at was, well, let me think. If he wants you to have $8 million and we don't give it to you, why doesn't he cough it up? He can create it like that. And if he wants to take you home, let him. It leaves us one less person to worry about. Okay. But on that little note, there is a song written back in 1973. You can find it on YouTube. It was written by the Carpenters. Up, up with people. Give it a listen. Okay, it has a very poignant message for you that everybody should hear. Okay, just a thought. Yeah, well, that's just it, LA. With the number of ships I've been on, LA is going, what does God need with a starship? God doesn't. Okay, but I will tell you, virtually every one of the off-world races and ancient races I've dealt with believe in some form of God. Usually it is attributed to growing into it is attributed to being made in that God's image. And Joseph just goes, even the Sumerian gods had a god. Absolutely. But let's put something something just on the table there, Joseph. If you, and this is for all of you guys, if you take yourself, okay, whatever your level of technological advancement you've got, take a Bic lighter, okay, just that little flick your Bic type thingy, okay, you can seal it in your hand, and you go hocus pocus, and you move your hand out of the way, and now you got a flame. And you do that in the middle of the Congo, and right now, you're a god. Okay. This is just the reality of it. Now, I will tell you before anybody goes there, I'm not getting into which religion started what. I will tell you where the whole 9 yards started in my experience. And that is when you go way back to the caves. Okay. And the thunder crashed and nobody knew what it was. Some genius goes, hey, I know. The thunder god is upset. That's why that noise is being made. We've got to do something to appease him. Now, this is where spirituality started to come into play. Everybody else that was afraid turned to him because amazingly, he had an answer. He had no foundation for it yet, but he had an answer. Okay. From there, it evolved to what we have today, with people going, with people going, I am the one returned. I came to lead you to a better world. And in order to do that, money is evil. It's the root of all evil. And you've got to be nice to people. You've got to be loving. Come out into the middle of nowhere. I've got an enclosed compound where I've got lots of guns to bring you to a world of peace. And of course, because money's all evil, give me all of your money. Okay, I know of one religion in particular that says, give the church 10% of your gross income. Okay, I don't know, is this buying your way into heaven? The point being, okay, if you're living in an apartment like I am, I run into somebody living on the street, that person on the street is going to see me and I know this because they've told me so, as being way better than they themselves. I'm telling you, it's absolute hogwash. Okay, if you're treating people that are less fortunate than you as a lesser person, you're the one that's having the problem, not them. Yeah, I know that's not very polite. I never said I was polite about it. Okay, but what we have to realize is make sure whatever you are passing on in the way of information is guiding people to a more accepting world. And I don't mean blind acceptance. When I was still married, my wife at the time flat out told me, there's no way I'm going back to a church with you. because you'll call the pastor on his sermon. And so people should. I heard one pastor literally tell me, well, he told the entire congregation, if you don't believe in one God, you are subhuman and should be treated as such. I'm telling you, a God doesn't require worshipers. But if you are going to emulate what an actual positive God is doing, treat the people you run into with the same respect you personally desire to be treated with. Okay, if you're not happy with the state of your world, do things to make it better without walking on other people. Okay, now, the reality of it is this. Science itself, they're on the right track, but they have not got all the answers yet. Okay, because I will tell you, one of the biggest flaws we have to look at. Uh-oh. Oh, Joseph goes, I'm going to say it all started for me back in 2017, the backyard at night. Yeah, and I agree there, Joseph. Undoubtedly, that probably brought your attention and brought it home. And Joseph, you are absolutely correct. Homeless people are not the problem. They are the result of the problem. The cure for the problem is easy enough. Okay, with the amount of wealthy people out there. Okay, if people were working towards helping each other. Okay, with the number of wealthy people, wealthy organizations, and I mean just simply monetarily wealthy. If they were taking care of the poor, of the homeless, okay, and I don't mean, by the way, I don't mean to say homeless people, like, number one, they are not all there by choice. Okay, I know a few people that ended up there by choice, but you really question whether it was choice. Okay, one woman in particular I know of was being literally brutalized by her own father in the house, and mother was not doing a thing about it. So technically, yeah, she chose to go onto the street. But talk about a lack of choices. Okay, and this is why I say, if you know people that have finances, and this is why once money starts to move, you can bet your bottom dollar. I've got a bottom line in my household that I require to run my life. Okay, and I mean just to keep a roof over my head and keep finances, keep the food in my house. Okay, I've got to be generating only a staggeringly low $2,500 a month. That will keep me quite comfortably, off the street. That said, I've already laid it out. Okay, I've already laid it out that once I'm making $2,500 a month, 80% of what I'm generating, what I'm drawing in, is going to end up turned back to the community. Okay, I've laid it out all on paper already. So I know this is going to happen. Just like I've told you guys, I'm working on these different projects. As they come clear, they're going to print. Of course, we have to get the money. Lou, I do believe you've been hanging around your kid a lot. Wu just goes, me has a tummy ache. Yogurt got to me. Well, the first bite of yogurt was going to get to me. Joseph, the blunt answer to your question. Joseph goes, what do you think? That Voyager sent back a message in code to NASA that said, stay on Earth? Not a snowball's prayer. And wherever you got that, you didn't do much in the way of research in all likelihood. Because the reality of it, from what I've seen, number one, we weren't told to stay on Earth. We were told, okay, that it is possible to have a one world government. Okay, not a dictatorship. Nobody is being held Earth. Nobody's being warned off it. That is not the way the off-worlders work. And I don't care whether people believe it or not. Joseph, I'm going to throw in just because, and I'm only going this far, and then I'm just going to let go of it. Okay. Can you, okay, at this moment, at this very moment in time, prove to me that New York exists at all? Okay, because I will tell you, it says all over the place, New York and all these other cities exist. That is not proof. Okay, it's that simple. Okay, you can quote all the stats, all the sources you'd like. It's not proof. Okay, so whether it's from the NASA site, let me ask you this. You want to call NASA, there's no problem there. But why doesn't NASA tell you about the other 3 planets in our solar system that they've got on their site? Why isn't that spread? The whys go on and on. One of the biggest things that has to happen is that people have to realize that no matter what you're reading, it may be misleading. Now, what? Oh, Lord, well, if you're outside at 107 degrees, it's no wonder. What did you do? Bagged up 20 bags. Now, bagging up 20 bags of pine needles is not a bad idea if you're dealing with a lunch bag. Okay. You know, the best I can suggest, well, I mean, I don't know what yogurt's like because I hate the flavor of it, and much more importantly, the texture. Okay. But I do agree with LA. You know, get Gatorade or something else that brings the electrolytic balance back. Very, very necessary. From what I've discovered, a little bit of salt also helps. Yeah, there's no question there, Woo. Mobius. Lilypond, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Woo. Mobius, 50,000 years ago, colonized, like the Lemurian Empire, literally colonized Mobius on the far side of Earth, on the far side of the sun, in the exact same orbit as Earth. Okay, so yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I did. I'm just sorely out of shape, but it felt good to sweat a lot. Yeah, and there's no problem there. But don't forget, whoa, now that you've done that, make sure you take time to recover. Yeah, what do we got? You know, the important factor here is when we are looking at healing the world, okay, we've got to realize so many people fight, they literally push limits to say, hey, I'm smarter than the next person. I'm dumber than a fence post. Okay. I made a really brilliant choice 56 years ago to retreat from society and hide. Oh, there you go, Will. You know, I decided to hide from the world. The idea was simple. Maybe, just maybe, people will grow up and start acting and behaving decently to each other. Okay. And yes, I did return to this world. Okay. Joseph, are you trying to say that nothing is in mankind's control? Because I'll tell you, this is starting to look more and more like a shovel. Okay. The reality is this is not a matrix. Nobody except you have control over you. Nobody but the individual. I mean, everybody out there. Every one of you has absolute dominant control over what you're doing. Okay. Whether you like it or not doesn't matter to me. Okay. I hear so many people blame me. How you doing? Glad you could join us. I hear so many people complain that the elites are controlling everything. The aliens are dominating everything. The politicians are to blame for everything going wrong. Let me ask you this. Who puts your shoes on in the morning? Who decides you're having a cup of coffee? Lily Pond, the fact that you typed that, who says I have control of myself? Well, the reality of it is, okay, that you can believe you don't have any control, and people are welcome to it. The reality is, if we get sidetracked on that, if nobody takes responsibility for their own actions, and I do not mean people have control, like I've got no control over what taxation does. Okay, I've got no control over that. Yes, the government handles it. Poorly, I might add, but they do handle it. Okay, but I will tell you, regardless of what's going on out there, I take full responsibility for what comes out of my mouth. Okay, and as I had to point out to somebody a while ago, I actually lost a friendship over it because they kept telling me, well, that's just your opinion. It absolutely is. But then everything that comes out of my mouth is my opinion. Oh, well, there's a piece of news flash for you guys. Woo Rider is just letting us know Gatorade has a new brand of drink called Gatorade Fit. Zero added sugar. Zero added sugar, no added colors, artificial sweeteners, etc. And tastes great. Only 1 gram of sugar per 16.9 fluid ounces. And this is fantastic there. Whoa. The neat little part about it, when you look at the world, okay, is that when you're looking at what this world is doing, if people choose to not lay claim to their own to what they're doing, okay, doesn't matter who you're blaming. Take a look now. You look at the situation I'm in. Just for example, I took a fever of 108.4. That flat when I went by all reports. I did that when I was 20 months old. Flash fried my hypothalamus, my hippocampus, left me with a few little hiccups. Okay, now do I blame myself for that fever? Not at all. But I do blame me for everything I've done with it since. Yeah. LA, that is the point to Gatorade, in my opinion. I agree with you, though. Gatorade has a real, an almost tacky flavor as far as I can tell, unless I'm overheating, at which point it works really well. Now, the funny part about it is when we're looking at what's going on in your life, everybody has, when I say everybody, the way I look at it, everybody meaning animals, plants, elementals, people, ancient races, off-worlders, you all have free will and freedom of choice. What you don't have is freedom from consequence. Okay, and the reality of it is much of what Joseph Lorenzen has been saying. I've heard the same argument from so many people. I gave up counting. Okay, but I've always had the same response. Okay, and that is you can continue blaming other people or other organizations or whatever. You can continue telling yourself that we live in a fabricated environment. We're just an ant farm. Whatever excuse you want to use, doesn't matter to me. I choose to believe I've got control over what I'm doing with what I've got available. Okay. Am I going to say I'm absolutely right? No. God knows that I could be in serious trouble. I break myself, and I always have broken non-human races into two classifications. And this is where the book Races of the World comes from. Off-worlders are any race, any species that originates off planet. Okay. And ancient races are any non-human species, or for that matter, the human species, that originates and or evolved on Earth. This is a separation. Okay. This neat little book, I am now approaching halfway through final edit. I won't be done before I head out of the country here. Okay. But that book, okay, Races of the World, in versus Races of the World, is available through that link at the top of the stream, the one that says buy me a coffee. Okay, you can find it up there. Now that particular volume has 60 different races, one of which is humans, that are documented in there in the form of a reference manual. I'm going to be blunt, Joseph. Let me ask you this. You've got all these neat little pieces of information, which granted, a lot of them have value. Okay, but what does it have to do with healing the world? Is this helping towards that at all? Or is it just serving to alter the course of what's being looked at? Just a thought. Okay. Yes, I'm mouthy. There is no question. The thing is, do I believe in God and all of that? Absolutely. In this stream, I'm God. And then, of course, we have Storm in this stream that is absolutely fabulous where it comes to removing stress problems. Okay. We have to start looking at the world and claiming responsibility for our own actions, our own choices, regardless of what's being presented out there. Okay, I have asked so many Christians. Number one, if you believe in God and you believe that God created everything, did God create evil? And so many people turn around. Okay. So many people turn around and go, no, God didn't create evil. I'm thinking, how can you have God create everything, but not that? Okay. So from that standpoint, we have to look in the mirror and go, okay, you take a look at the whole of society. Things are being done that are way beyond your control. You're not the one setting the gas prices, but you're the one that has to decide, are you going to pay them or are you going to start walking? That's your choice with the gas price the way it is. Okay. The elites don't determine whether you pay it. They may be the ones determining what the price is. Absolutely. Okay. That's just the reality of it. You've got to, we all, myself included, okay, have to absolutely turn around and start looking in the mirror and going, okay, you know what you're facing. If you legitimately suffer from what I call true ignorance, meaning for whatever reason, you don't know how to deal with a situation, okay, that's one issue. If you know better and you're doing it anyway, then it becomes what I call stupid. Now, with this in mind, okay, we have to take a look. we have to take a look at one very simple factor. Okay. When you're looking at how you interact with other people, are you helping them feel more empowered in their own world, or are you making them feel like they are a lesser person, less educated, not as worthy, not as capable, whatever? And I mean not as capable, not in every aspect. Like, for instance, me, a blunt answer to your question, no. Okay. I believe, me is asking, do you believe in a monotheistic God? In other words, one God and he rules everything. Here's the thing, my belief is real simple. By human standards, yes, I believe in one God. But coming from that one God does not determine what anybody else does. He created the setup, and you can call it he, she, it, I don't care. Okay. That one God opened the door and set the rest of it in motion. So anybody can believe in a single God or a pantheon of gods without any degradation to the belief structure or the level of their capacity. Okay. We all have the capacity to heal the world around us. Okay. Now, do understand, you as an individual can absolutely heal yourself. However, before somebody jumps on that little idea, I do not mean without medical assistance. It is a combination of science and faith, that faith or belief, call it what you will, that ultimately will help you heal. Okay, now I will tell you that I like what you're asking there of me. Literally, not in the Return to Paradise, which I'm working on finishing, but in Where It All Began, which will be the next book down the road. I have laid out how the whole thing of God comes about from my perspective. And yes, I've couched the whole thing in a science fiction, science fantasy realm. Absolutely, I have. Now, the big factor that we have to look at here is I am not the spokesperson for all of reality. Okay, I simply know what I believe, and this is the way I live my life. People are more than welcome to live your life the way you will. Problem I'm seeing, though, is so many people are living their life based on the idea of making themselves seem brighter, smarter, faster, stronger, more artistic, whatever, than the next person, that it's creating a schism in society where you have a growing separation between people. We're not talking unification of the species. We're talking fragmentation. Okay, when I look at the UFO community and I see people reaching, I see, if you will, non-believers in UFOs, unidentified flying objects. And understand, to me, an unidentified flying object is simple. If you look at the sky, as in it's flying, you don't know what it is. It is unidentified. That does not mean it's alien. It does not mean anything except it is unidentified. But in the UFO community, I hear so many people go, so many people that don't believe, and they have their first experience. They come to somebody that claims to believe, and that claimed believer will turn around and go, oh, you're imagining it. This is not the way to help people unify. I know people in the gay community that literally tell other members of the same community, if you've got children, you're not gay. Now, where does this come as being supportive? Okay, some of the brightest people I've ever met did not have an education. Take a look at Einstein. As far as I gather, dropped out of grade 3. We have to take a look at everybody's strengths and everybody's weaknesses. Focus on the strengths. Okay, now I'm just going to look at this one little detail with the big picture that Joseph has brought up, with the big picture being predetermined. Okay, understand the big picture of the motor vehicle is built by somebody else. Okay, but all it does is sit there until mankind turns around and goes, until an individual driver turns around and goes, this is what I'm doing with it. Same as your body. You're born into a pre-built organism. You, as a soul, took over. Okay. Now, the reality of it is, from my end, there is no question that the moment we start looking at people and going, okay, what are you doing that makes sense? I was talking to a waitress one day, fabulous waitress, decided she wanted to get into construction. Did this make her a bad waitress? Not at all. As a matter of fact, she's still a phenomenal waitress. Okay. Everybody has strengths. Everybody has strengths. Everybody has weaknesses. Okay. And what one thing I've always put out there, if you as an individual are running into a snag on how do you start turning your life? Okay. If you really don't know where to begin, or if you think if you're second guessing yourself, absolutely drop me a line. I am not by any functional means. I am not the be all and end all. Okay. Yes, I've got lifetimes of memories. Okay. But what I don't have is a temporal, as in a time sense. Okay. So where it comes to all the stuff that's written in all the books, don't ask me to quote it. I don't know it. I mean, heck, we take a look at this neat little book. Funny little thing called the Bible. I've read approximately a third of the way through it. Just over a third at this point. I could not even begin to tell you what paragraph to look where. Okay. Same as this. Okay. My little brother wrote this. I've read probably 80% of it now. I can't tell you pages. I can tell you whether I enjoyed the book or not. But the reality of it is, I had a brother that used to be able to remember every word he ever read. He doesn't do it all that well now. He's dead. Okay. But this did not make him better than me, or worse than me, or worse than you. Maybe you've got the ability to drive a straight nail. I'll tell you, give me a nail and a hammer. If I drive the thing straight, it was an accident. Okay. I mean, ultimately, I try and do my best, but it doesn't always work that way. But the trick to healing this world is to, number one, realize one critical factor. I don't care how smart you are, how many different degrees you've got, how much individual information you've got. It doesn't matter to me. Okay. And talking about it, like I am not the be all and end all. And absolutely, if you don't agree with me, don't worry about it. I'm not here to convince anybody of anything. But I will tell you that touting all of the information written anywhere, be my guest. Okay. Be my guest. Absolutely. Okay. Problem. Okay. If you're hoping that quote, like I get people doing this all the time, they will quote stats. Well, I read this, I read that. Bluntly put, it doesn't matter to me. Okay, it really doesn't. And the reason for it is this. All the information that's written out there is somebody else's. The things I talk about are what I've personally gone through. Okay, and yeah, there's a staggering number of people that will turn around and go, I do this better than you. No matter what you do, I'm better. I know people like this. They're called narcissists. Okay. I've grown up around them. I am not a pessimist. I'm not an optimist. I like to see myself as a realist. But I will tell you, I've got a very disillusioned outlook on the way the world is running, which is why I keep telling myself. Now, I've mentioned this to you guys. Okay. And I still encourage it. Okay. These 4 words. I am worth it. 4 most powerful words in any language in that combination to help put your self-esteem back on track. Okay. Now, I call the newsletter I put out Positive Perception and Positive Perspectives, and this live stream as Positive Perceptions. I talk about this issue of remaining positive. I will guarantee, if you actually know me, you'll find out I do not have that high of a regard for the positive side of things. Okay, way too many things that I see. Like, for instance, I'm absolutely positive if people on the whole do not start treating each other better, okay, and do not start encouraging each other, this society is going to buckle again. Okay, I'm absolutely positive of it. Now, am I going to blame anybody that's alive today? No. This got started centuries ago by the people that were back then. And it has been continued in perpetuity. Okay, it's up to you. Are you going to continue following that path? Okay, now, yes, absolutely. Everybody has a right to their own opinion. Absolutely, they do. Now, I have people, some people will step in this chat room, and I've seen it done. Some people will step in, okay, and they will, oh, Nathan goes, I still wonder how many human civilizations break away to avoid all of these events. Society buckling. I honestly cannot give you an answer. You know, Nathan, the reality is there's a lot of splinter communities that are repeating the same mistakes. Okay, they break away, and here's the only way you can get a society to work. The only one I've seen in all of my lifetimes. Now, we know that laws have to be put in place to continue to permit a society to grow, because there are so many variables in perceptions. You have to have guidelines that apply to everyone. But the problem is the people in the control seats keep making laws and keep passing on viewpoints that segregate the society. When a society is making laws, if it does not make laws that apply to everybody, the lawmakers included, or the spiritual guides included, okay, if the laws do not apply to everybody, that civilization will fracture. And what's happening with these breakaway civilizations you're talking about, what happens is they break away. They go, we're not happy. They break away. They make laws and they repeat the same process. How many people do you know of that leave the country of their origin to come to a new country? They didn't like where the old country was, what it was doing. So they come to the new country and then start demanding the changes to make the new country like their old country. This is the same problem with civilizations. Go back, I think it was in the late 70s, early 80s, when Animal Farm was written by George Orwell. Okay, if you can find a copy of it, this will show you exactly what these breakaway societies do. And it'll show you what modern day society is up to. If we are going to choose to heal society, what we're going to do, and I'll put it bluntly in this stream, what we're going to do is we're going to look for ways to encourage each other, okay, to encourage the unification and the equal footing amongst all peoples in this stream. I can only functionally control this stream. Oh, me, the short answer is yes. But I'll tell you this. Certain gems have definitive qualities. Where is... I'm looking to see if I can find the one book I'm looking for. Right there. Now, this is not the best book in the world. I'm sure there are others. But me, strong recommendation. Because the reality behind what you're asking, me is asking, does wearing gems have a positive effect? I know a guy who used to wear them for positivity. Okay. And like LA says, she finds them beneficial. When you're looking at belief, the more people that believe in something, the stronger that impact is going to be. No matter whether you know the person or not. My personal recommendation, this book, Love is in the Earth. This is the one I turn to. Because this will tell you which gems are of the most value. As far as which ones will promote positivity, healing, this sort of thing. I strongly endorse this particular book. Now this one has no pictures. Okay. It was written, that's a good question. But it is written by Melody. That's the best I can tell you. But here it is again. I'll hold this here for you. Write down, I hope you can read that, I don't know. But this is called Love is in the Earth. Write it down, go and find it. That will guide you in the best way. Renee's going, Animal Farm was mandatory read in my high school. I believe it was in mine as well. Okay. The other thing I will tell you guys, when it comes to the gems. Okay. That's right. Where it comes to the gems, whatever you put the energy into, whatever you believe, whatever you believe, and thank you very much there, Ellie, whatever you believe, that's going to strengthen its impact. Okay, and again, it's the same thing in this case, whether you believe what I'm saying or you believe what somebody else is saying, that's your call. Absolutely, it's your call. The reality of it is, reality is mutable. I've seen this happen time and time again. Thank you very much, LA. We are now apparently down to our 30-minute mark. Okay. Now, the reality of it from my standpoint is this. If we do not, and this is a pretty big if, because you have 100% total choice, regardless of how you got to where you are. If you choose to continue buying into the negative world, if you choose to continue being distracted by people claiming that their way is their only way of doing it, or watching how other people say, hey, you got to do this, do as I say, not as I do. If you choose to continue doing that, continue doing things the way you're doing them, then you are literally choosing to follow and to keep yourself in the dark. Now, no matter who you run into, and I ran into this a while back, neat discovery I found. Real simple little physical, like a financial thing I discovered. Whatever you're looking for, doesn't matter what it is, go out, buy it. You'll find something cheaper. I've always found, usually within a week or two of a purchase, especially regarding major purchases. You'll always find somebody better. You'll always find somebody worse. Now, I've had a lot of people tell me, I don't know what I'm talking about. Oh, I know more than you are. Here's information you don't have. I'll save you a whole lot of hassle, guys. If you're looking to prove that I don't know everything on the planet, don't even bother looking. I'll tell you, I don't. Okay, I barely know enough to keep my mouth shut in certain situations. Like, there are a couple of places that are just plain flat out common sense to me. And yet people do these things on a regular basis. Okay. This is on a regular basis. I see these people do this. You're walking through an airport and you joke about a bomb. This is plain stupid. Okay. Don't joke when you're talking to a cop. Never, to a policeman. Never joke about having a concealed weapon. It is a bad idea. Now, to me, it's just common sense. Okay. What I find, I used to buy into it a lot. Okay. I used to buy into it a staggering amount where somebody would make a comment and I get right riled up about it. I learned how. Okay. I learned how to bottle. I thought I learned how to bottle my emotions. Really cute thought. Bottled everything I felt and had a stroke. By the way, this is a bad outcome. Okay. At least with my heart attack, at least when I had a heart attack back in 2013, that heart attack was a hiccup. Okay. It wasn't because I bottled anything. It's just my heart decided it was going to stop in a big way. LA, that's just sad. The LA goes, if you need a garden dug, just tell the police where the body is. I'm telling you, this is a bad idea. Okay. I did see a joke to that effect on Facebook one day, where the son used to do all the work. Where the son used to do all the work in the yard and ended up breaking the law at some point and ending up in prison. Oh, nice. Renee's just going, she met Melody when she bought the book and she autographed it many years ago. I never had the pleasure of meeting Melody, but I will tell you, I absolutely love the work. I love the written work that you've done. And I still, to this day, use it as a reference manual. And this is why I say, when I turn around and look at this little book, okay, it's a reference manual. Okay, that's all it is. But do I rely on it? Yeah, I really do. And yes, I have questioned for years whether my mind completely hit the loop job. But there are many people that have told me flat out I know nothing about what I'm talking about. They may well be right. Okay. I will tell you, I do have my own view in case you hadn't noticed. But the reality of it is there is a simple message here. And this is the one I came back to this world for again to remind you people of. And that is that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Okay, we really can. But you've got to be willing to put your ego behind you and start following 3 simple laws. Be true to yourself first. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. And energy out, energy in. If you follow those 3 laws, you will find your life I have found my life runs extremely well. Okay, because I follow those. Now, yes, I follow the other laws, the ones that are written. Absolutely, I do. Primarily because I don't like the vertical bar scene. Okay, don't like the horizontal bar scene either at this point. But it is absolutely imperative that when you're talking to people, whether they are on the street, whether they're a cashier, a first responder, military personnel, Joe Blow, doesn't matter. Okay, I heard it put to me one day by a psychologist. The way they put it was this: when you end up in a philosophical debate, okay, number one, if you walk away from it and your belief in your outlook is still stable, okay, then you're on the right track. If you let somebody else's belief sway what you believe, and I shouldn't say let, if the other person is telling you something that makes you think differently, then you were not on the best path for you. This happened directly to me over a decade ago. I was a speaker on. I had a show on KGRA radio. To the best of my knowledge, they're still running. Okay, but on that show, I had a guest from the Roman Catholic Church and a guest from the Church of Satan. Now, I had preconceptions, misguided as it turned out, about the Church of Satan. On that show, the guy from the Church of Satan showed me their guidelines and proved what I knew as wrong. Okay, it was misguided. And as soon as I had that, within an hour, I had the man from the Church of Satan and the man from the Roman Catholic Church agreeing with each other on much of what they were talking about. Okay, I absolutely have been stuck in my own ways. Okay, absolutely I have. And the thing that I've had to come to terms with is that's not going to change anytime soon. But I will tell you, so many people come to me and go, well, you're wrong about this. I don't doubt it. I've been wrong about a lot of things. As a matter of fact, I remember one time in particular, I was definitely wrong. I had made a comment and, I had thought I was wrong. Turned out I was right. Okay, net result, I was wrong in thinking I was wrong. Yeah, that gets really confusing. Now what we're looking at is a world where everybody, no matter what walk of life you come from, okay, whatever you're telling people, ask yourself this. Number one, is what you're saying honest? 2, is it going to benefit anybody? 3, is it going to hurt anybody? Okay, if it is not going to help people, and if it's not true, and it's not going to help somebody, it may be wise to button your lip. Okay, just a thought. Thank you very much, LA. I haven't been on there, like I made a mistake on there a long time ago. And that's why I won't do it now. Okay. One thing I learned on that show, on that radio station, was do not utilize other people's names. And this is why, unless I've got direct permission from somebody, I will not tell you where I got the information from or what they're up to. I remember years ago, I had a client call me up and they went, where, I just want to know where the guy down the end of the street got the money to buy the new boat he bought. I looked at him and went, I'm not telling you, go ask him. I'm paying you to tell me. I said, I don't care. It's got nothing to do with you. I can tell you it didn't come out of your bank account. That's where my input ends. But you're paying me, I'm paying you such and such. I don't care. All the money in the world won't make me do that. Yeah, not a problem there. Well, it'll probably, I will warn you, it's likely to be it's likely to be a couple of weeks before I get to them, but certainly send them. I do look at videos. Like I said, I am not a video analyst, but some of the ones you sent me are rather intriguing. The reality of it is this. I come to this world with one very simple message. Okay. And that is simply working together. We can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Okay, I have found that I have a limited amount of tolerance for people that treat others as though they are better than the other person. This is why myself and narcissists run into a little bit of a hiccup. I don't like the competition. The fact of the matter is, I've seen a lot of things that I question my own sanity on. Okay, I literally will look at it and go, how can we call this a rational decision? I'm all for helping people, but here's the kicker. I read my grandmother's autobiography. Okay. Bad news, Joseph. You can't make anybody do anything. That is where free choice comes. Okay. Just last year, just this year, I got a hold of my grandmother's autobiography. I found out that the way the general population and the Canadian government was treating people 100 years ago, they are still treating people the exact same way. Okay, it is up to you guys now to start altering this and to start teaching the people around you to treat people better. Okay, it's that simple. Now, the unfortunate reality of it is everybody has the free choice and the ability to talk to people in a respectful fashion. You absolutely do. Okay, where it comes to the one thing, Joseph, that I will tell you, and this applies to all of you. Okay, every time I say that, I keep going, all y'all, in my head. But the one thing I have found is if I find people are treating me in a disrespectful fashion or in a bad fashion altogether, what I can do is limit my interaction with them. I threw a really good gamer out of my house one day because of his behavior, and I hang up on more people than I care to count. So what I did, I went a little overboard, became extremely reclusive decades ago. Okay, matter of fact, I guess extremely about a decade before the lockdown happened. I walked away from people altogether and cut all of my contact to all save 2 people. Those 2 people I'm still dealing with. And I mean 2 people locally. There are a few of you out there, literally speaking, LA Moon and Storm being 2 people that a decade ago I made contact with, and in spite of disconnecting from everybody else, I maintained contact with them. And I have no interest in cutting it loose anytime soon. But what we have to realize is not a single person, myself or any one of you out there, is any better than anybody else. Yes, some of you have a higher IQ. Some of you have a better tactical mind. Maybe you've got a better trades mind. There are people with better skills. Okay, the fact of the matter is that doesn't make anybody better than anybody. And the reality is, when you take that little concept to heart, okay, you will find very clearly, okay, that number one, you start to heal because you don't have the amount of stress around you. But you learn usually by trial and error. If somebody is saying something to you that you find makes you feel uncomfortable, unworthy, unwelcome, and that worked out well. It doesn't matter if we're talking stranger, acquaintance, friend, close friend, family, doesn't matter. If they're treating you in a way that does not encourage you or does not help you feel a little better about you and your life, okay, it may be time to disconnect from them. Okay, I unfortunately have had to learn this the hard way. I'm encouraging you to take a lesson from what I've already gone through. Thank you very much there, LA. We are down to the 15-minute mark. Okay, now, the reality of it is, as we heal ourselves, okay, the short range is it will start to affect the people in your immediate family. That will expand to affect the people in the community around you. Okay, the more little spot fires we start of treating each other properly, in other words, in an encouraging fashion. Okay, where those of you that have the wealth, those of you that have the strength, those of you that have the insight, okay, when you guys take the position of leaders, okay, to start helping those that are less endowed in those areas, that's when society starts to change. Okay, as long as you look at your intellect and go, I'm smarter than you, so I'm better than you, and here's how I'm better than you. Here's the kicker. When I'm talking to a child, I mean 4 or 5-year-old kid, okay, I will start the same way I deal with you guys. Okay, when I am asked a question, I will start with multisyllabic conversation. If they don't get it, I will downplay it. Okay, I will rephrase it so they get it. I don't sit here going, oh, you're not smart enough to know. Okay, if they're smart enough to ask, they're smart enough to know. Okay, and if somebody is smart enough to posit an observation that makes sense. Okay, in other words, look at it, analyze it, absolutely. Okay, be wise enough to take the insight. Okay, there's a neat little saying that goes, from out of the mouths of babes. And they were not talking about tiny little kids, nor extremely good-looking men or women. Okay, the reality of it is this. We have to start focusing on the positive things. Okay, and this is why I encourage you and directly ask you, bring your friends, bring your strangers, bring your enemies, doesn't matter. Let's make positive perceptions into a going concern. Now, I don't charge for anything I'm doing here because of the fact that this is a message that everybody's got to get, the wealthy and the poor alike. Okay, you know, the brilliant and the mentally restricted alike, the physically endowed and the physically restricted alike. Everybody from every walk of life requires this same perception. Okay, now, yes, that's just my opinion, but I'm a mouthy individual, so I'm allowed to say it. That and the fact that, well, I'm on here. And the reality is that YouTube itself has its own restrictions. It's got its own guidelines that I will absolutely do my best to follow. Now, the sad reality of it is this. I see way too many people coming in here that have really destructive perceptions, okay, that are absolutely intent on only one thing, and that is derailing the conversation to draw attention to themselves or to draw attention to things that don't matter at the time. For instance, if we're talking about mental health, does it really matter how many Chinese people like rice? Okay. Or does it matter whether the oil change on a VW Bug or a Maserati takes less time? Okay. The reality of it is, in order to mentally heal, get focused on what is important to you. And like I've said, okay, yes, I talk about all this stuff in a positive venue. This does not mean I see it all in a positive venue. And do I see flaws in individuals? You bet. But guess who I see the biggest flaw in? I'm just curious if anybody actually gets that. She drank all my coffee, but we're just done, so I'm not dealing with it. Just take a wild guess who I've got the lowest opinion on when you look at the emotional and intellectual side of things. You know, or if you will, who I'm actually most critical of, either which individual or which group for that matter. Okay, because the first trick in healing the world is literally getting a handle on yourself and what you're not content with about you. Now, I will tell you, it is blatantly obvious to me that when you're dealing with a narcissist, the most important, the only person they worry about is themselves. Okay, now my self-esteem used to be an absolute shambles. Now it's just a wreck. But I found a way to cope with the number of names I was called. And by the way, some of them were repeatable in polite company. But when I was growing up, I had people call me all sorts of things and try and tell me, oh, I'm better at this than you are. My defense mechanism, instead of developing an eating disorder or a drug or alcohol addiction, I turned around, somebody say one thing wrong about me, and I would list off a half a dozen more things. Because the way I looked at it, I did that, they stopped looking down, they stopped commenting on how bad off I was or how off kilter I was. Okay, but the net result, like my own family used to tell me literally, don't sing, you can't carry a tune. Net result, I quit singing altogether. Okay, I will tell you, it is time to look in the mirror. It's time to heal yourself. Give yourself permission to be happy. Give yourself permission to cry if you're unhappy. Give yourself permission to walk away from toxic relationships, whether they are friendships, family relations, business, doesn't matter. It's across the board. Mental health is brought about, okay, like mental health, emotional health is brought about by looking in the mirror and going, this is where my shortfall is. How do I heal it? By you looking in the mirror, okay, and identifying your own shortfalls. There is no doubt in my heart you will start to see the world in a different light and thereby be able to treat them the other people of the world in a much more amicable and functional and prosperous fashion. But it's up to you to make that choice. Joe Stewart is asking, is there such a thing as paranormal activity awareness? Absolutely, Joseph. Absolutely, Joe. Here's the thing. When you look around, when you look at what is considered paranormal, it literally means sort of normal. Okay. But when that sort of normal thing is happening all the time for you, it is now a normal thing. All being aware of paranormal activity is being aware of things that are abnormal to what you're used to. That is the long and the short of it. Okay. Whether it boils down to seeing aliens, seeing activity in the graveyard, seeing people interact with each other. Okay. It's all paranormal. I had a client when I went to Reno. Okay. When they came into the room, they asked if I could help. I said, I'll do what I can. They walked into the room on a cane because they were bent over like this. Okay. They were literally bent over almost double what they were at the waist. Actually, in all fairness, I'm pretty certain they were only bent over about 45 degrees. But I could feel where the problem was. So I went to work using energy. I cannot call it Reiki. Okay. Because I was never trained. I went about using energy to remind their body to heal them. Before they left the room, they were walking upright. They hadn't done that in a few years from what I gather. Okay, that's just the reality of it. But the more you heal yourself and let the negative go out of your life, and let the clutter go out of your life, the better you're going to interact with other people. The faster this planet will, that this civilization will heal. Understand something. If we don't turn it around and the world buckles, we're going to have one heck of a mess. Now, we've just hit the 5-minute mark. And that said, guys, it is up to you to make the effort to simply change your world. Take responsibility for your own actions and your own words and start to deliberately alter them to a more positive, encouraging venue. With that in mind, I'd like to say thank you so very much for sharing your time with me today. Really appreciate it. Love the input. And I will be back again tomorrow, 4:30 Pacific until 6:30 Pacific. Until then, do take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.